In a quiet town, there was a boy who had a gift that few people could understand. From the moment he could sit at a piano, he seemed to know how to make the keys sing. His family noticed it early, though they could not explain it. His hands would hover over the keys, and when he pressed down, music seemed to flow from somewhere deep inside him. It was not just sound. It was emotion, it was life, and it was beauty. The boy did not know where this talent came from, only that it made him happy and calm. Even in the busiest moments of the day, he could find a corner to practice, to lose himself in the rhythm of the notes and the melodies that seemed to appear almost by magic. His house was small, filled with the normal noises of life. The hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the old wooden floors, the chatter of neighbors outside. But inside the little living room, where a slightly worn piano sat, a different world existed. When the boy played, it was as if the walls disappeared, as if the world outside melted away, leaving only him and the music. His family would sometimes stop what they were doing just to listen, feeling something they could not quite describe. They had seen him stumble over simple notes as a toddler, but soon those mistakes disappeared, replaced by confidence and clarity that seemed beyond his age. He discovered Mozart almost by accident. One day, while browsing old records at a small shop, he found an album of Mozart's piano pieces. He had heard of the composer before but had never listened closely. From the first note, something changed inside him. He could feel the music in his chest, in his fingers, in his mind. It was playful and serious at the same time. It was full of life. He began to play the pieces again and again, trying to understand them, trying to make them his own. Each practice session was an exploration, a journey into a world where everything had meaning and every note had a story. The boy did not play for fame or attention. He played because it filled him with a joy he could not explain. Still, those around him began to notice. Teachers at school mentioned how talented he was. Neighbors whispered about the boy who could make a piano sing like no one else. His parents worried sometimes. They wanted him to have a normal childhood, but they also knew they could not hold him back from something that seemed to be a part of him. Music was his world, and there was no stopping him from entering it. At school, he was quiet and thoughtful. He did not have many friends, not because he was unfriendly, but because most children could not understand the intensity with which he approached life. He could spend hours looking at sheet music or listening to a recording of a symphony, completely lost to the world. Some classmates teased him for being different, calling him strange for caring so much about music. Yet, the boy never let their words discourage him. Inside, he knew something they did not. He had a connection to music that was deep and true, and nothing anyone said could take it away. His parents had worked hard to provide him with lessons, though money was often tight. They saved for months to pay for a good piano teacher, someone who could guide him and help him refine his gift. The teacher was amazed from the very first lesson. He had taught many students over the years, but there was something extraordinary about this boy. His fingers moved with precision and expression, as if he had been born to play. More than that, he listened and understood, not just the notes but the emotions behind them. His teacher knew he was witnessing something rare, something that could not be taught, only nurtured. The boy's days were filled with practice, school, and small moments of normal childhood. He would help around the house, sometimes play with his little siblings, sometimes read books or watch the birds outside the window. But at the end of each day, when everyone else had gone to bed, he would sit at the piano and lose himself once more. Sometimes he played softly, letting the music drift into the corners of the room. Sometimes he played loudly, filling the house with energy and passion. Each time, it was a different experience, a new story being told through sound. Word of the boy's talent spread slowly at first. Neighbors would stop by when they heard the music, listening in awe. Some would clap politely, others would cry, though he never knew exactly why. The music had a way of touching people, of making them feel something they could not explain. The boy did not play for them, but their reactions gave him a sense of purpose. He realized that the music he loved could also move others, and that realization filled him with pride and humility at the same time. He had heard of competitions before, small local events where young musicians could perform. At first, he did not want to participate. The thought of playing in front of strangers made his stomach twist. Stage fright was something he had to fight every day. But eventually, his teacher encouraged him, saying that his talent deserved to be shared. It was not about winning or losing. It was about showing the world what he could do. With some hesitation, he agreed, though he still felt a knot of anxiety every time he thought about stepping onto a stage. The night before his first performance, he could hardly sleep. He lay in bed, thinking about the notes, the melody, the way his fingers would move. He imagined the audience, the judges, and the hall, every detail of the event playing in his mind like a movie. He felt excitement, fear, and anticipation all at once. He practiced in his mind, visualizing each movement, each pause, each breath. His heart raced, but deep inside he felt ready. The music was a part of him, and he knew that if he trusted himself, he could make it speak. Morning came with a soft light, and the boy felt a strange calm as he prepared for the day. He dressed neatly, taking care to appear composed, though inside, the flutter of nerves remained. He took a deep breath, reminding himself of the joy he felt when he played, the way the piano had always been his friend and his companion. He promised himself that no matter what happened, he would let the music flow, and let it tell the story he could not put into words. At the hall he saw other children, each with their own talent, each with their own dreams. Some smiled nervously, some whispered to their parents, some practiced last-minute notes. He felt a sense of camaraderie, knowing that they were all there for the same reason, to share something they loved. When it was his turn, he walked to the piano, his legs shaking slightly, his palms sweaty. He sat down, closed his eyes for a moment, and let the first note flow. And then, as if by magic, the nerves disappeared, replaced by focus and calm. The music took over, and the boy became one with the piano. The audience listened in silence as the notes filled the hall. Every movement, every pause, every crescendo was full of feeling. It was clear that this was not just a performance. It was a conversation between the boy and the music. The applause that followed was thunderous, but the boy did not immediately hear it. He was still lost in the music, still floating in the world he had created with each keystroke. When he finally looked up, he saw faces shining with awe, with joy, with amazement. In that moment, he understood something important. His music had the power to touch hearts, to change moods, to make people feel deeply. And he felt a quiet pride, not in himself, but in the gift he had been given, and the way it could reach others. That day marked the beginning of something bigger than the boy could have imagined. He had faced his fears, shared his passion, and discovered the impact of his talent. But the story was far from over. This was only the start of a journey that would challenge him, inspire him, and eventually lead to a moment that no one would forget. The boy had found his voice through the piano, and through Mozart, he had discovered the courage to share it with the world. After his first performance, the boy returned home with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. His parents were proud, but they could see the weight of pressure settling on him. He had tasted a little of what it felt like to perform for an audience, and the experience had opened a door to a world full of new challenges. Even though he had played beautifully, he could not stop thinking about the small mistakes he had made, the moments when he had stumbled over a note or hesitated. Inside, he felt that he needed to do better, to prepare more, to reach a level that would leave no doubt in anyone's mind about his abilities. Each day after school, he would sit at the piano, working tirelessly. Hours passed without him realizing, as his fingers danced over the keys. The music was no longer just a joy. It had become a purpose, a mission to perfect every movement and understand every nuance of the compositions he loved. Sometimes he would play slowly, studying each note, and other times he would play with passion, letting his emotions pour out. The piano was his companion, his teacher, and his friend. Even when the house was silent and the night deepened, he would continue, lost in the harmony of Mozart's works. Yet not everything was easy. His days were filled with small struggles that made the path to mastery difficult. There were times when his hands ached from practice, when the sounds he produced were not what he wanted, or when he felt frustrated that he could not reach the level he imagined. Some days he would look at his reflection in the piano lid, his young face serious and focused, and wonder if he could truly become the musician he dreamed of being. The doubts crept in, whispering that maybe he was not good enough, that perhaps others were far better, and that his efforts might not be enough. But each time those thoughts came, he would push them aside, remembering the joy he felt when he played, the way music lifted him above worry and fear. His teacher remained a steady presence, guiding him through these struggles. With patience, he would point out small details. The importance of posture, the subtle differences in timing, the way emotion could be expressed without force. The boy listened carefully, absorbing every word. Yet he also knew that the music required his own heart, his own interpretation. He practiced what he learned, repeating sections endlessly until they felt alive, until every note felt like a breath of his own soul. It was not just technical skill he was building. It was the ability to communicate, to make others feel the same wonder he experienced. At school, his peers continued to notice the change in him. Some were curious, asking about his music, while others were skeptical, unable to understand why a boy so young could care so deeply about piano. Occasionally, teasing would return, and he would hear whispers or jokes about being a child prodigy or a perfectionist. But he had learned to rise above it. Music had given him strength and focus, and no words from others could diminish that. He also discovered that a few friends, those who cared more about character than popularity, admired his dedication and would sit quietly while he played, listening and encouraging him in small ways that meant the world. Life at home was a balance of discipline and warmth. His parents encouraged him but also reminded him to eat, rest, and take breaks. They helped him understand that talent alone was not enough. It needed care and balance. They would sometimes watch him practice in awe, seeing the concentration in his eyes, the way he would sigh or smile when a passage went perfectly. His younger siblings would sometimes peek from the doorway, fascinated by the magic of the music and the boy who could create it. The household became a place of encouragement and understanding, even as it was filled with the usual noises and routines of daily life. Opportunities began to arise. Local music clubs and teachers started noticing the boy's talent. Invitations to perform at small recitals came, and he would accept, each one bringing new challenges. He learned to adapt to different pianos, different audiences, and different spaces. Each performance was a lesson, each mistake a teacher, and each applause a reminder of the power of music. The boy began to understand that performing was not just about playing notes correctly. It was about connecting, about making people feel what he felt inside. Financial struggles, however, were never far from the boy's life. His family did what they could, but the cost of good instruments, lessons, and competitions often created stress. Sometimes the boy would hear his parents whispering at night, worried about money, and it weighed on him. He wanted to help, wanted to be a source of pride without being a burden. It made him more determined, pushing him to practice harder, to excel, and to find ways to make the music matter, not just for himself, but for the people who supported him. One particularly challenging week, the boy faced an unexpected obstacle. His piano teacher was sick, and he had to practice alone for several days. The pieces he was working on seemed harder without guidance, and he felt frustrated and lonely. Notes that were once easy became stumbling blocks, and he questioned if he could truly reach the level he imagined. Yet, instead of giving up, he found a quiet determination. He listened to recordings of Mozart, watched videos of performances, and tried to emulate them while still keeping his own interpretation. Each day he made small progress, and slowly confidence returned. He learned that even when guidance is absent, determination and self-reflection could push him forward. During this time, he also began to explore his own expression. It was no longer enough to play perfectly. He wanted to tell a story, to convey emotion, to make the audience feel the journey he experienced while practicing. He experimented with tempo, with dynamics, with phrasing, and discovered the delicate balance between precision and emotion. His teacher noticed the change when he returned, smiling as he said that the boy was beginning to play not just with his hands, but with his heart. It was a turning point, one that would shape the way he approached every performance in the future. The boy also learned about patience. Some days progress was slow, and he would become frustrated. But over time, he realized that growth often came in small steps, not giant leaps. He celebrated minor improvements, like mastering a tricky passage or expressing a phrase perfectly. These small victories became fuel for his passion, motivating him to continue. He understood that talent alone would not carry him. Persistence, patience, and love for the music were equally important. By the time the next recital approached, the boy was ready in ways he had never been before. He had faced doubts, obstacles, and fatigue, but each challenge had taught him something valuable. He had grown not only as a musician but as a person, learning discipline, resilience, and the importance of dedication. When he arrived at the hall, he was calmer, more confident, and more focused. He knew that mistakes might happen, but he also knew that every note played with heart was worth it. He took his place at the piano, sitting with posture and poise that reflected the countless hours of preparation. The audience waited quietly, sensing that something special was about to unfold. When his fingers touched the keys, the music began to flow naturally, effortlessly, yet with depth and expression that amazed even seasoned listeners. Each phrase was intentional, each note carrying emotion. The boy had learned that music was not just about technique, but about connection, and he poured himself into it fully. As the performance continued, the boy felt a strange sense of clarity. The nerves he had once known so well had transformed into focus. He was no longer playing to impress. He was playing to communicate, to tell a story, to make the audience feel what he felt inside. When the last note lingered in the air, the hall erupted into applause. The boy felt a mix of relief and joy, but also a quiet satisfaction. He had overcome struggle, he had faced challenges, and he had allowed his heart to guide him. That evening, back at home, he reflected on the journey so far. He understood that talent could open doors, but hard work, determination, and resilience were what made the path sustainable. Each struggle, each challenge, each small victory had shaped him into a stronger, more capable musician. And although he knew the journey was far from over, he felt ready for whatever came next. The boy had not only learned to play music beautifully, he had begun to understand the true meaning of dedication, passion, and perseverance. And with that understanding, he was prepared to face the next chapter of his journey, where music would continue to inspire, challenge, and transform both him and those who heard him. The day of the big performance arrived, and the boy felt a mix of excitement, nervousness, and anticipation that made his heart beat faster than usual. He had prepared for this moment for months, practicing every day, refining every passage, and imagining the music in his mind countless times. Yet nothing could fully prepare him for the experience of stepping onto a stage in front of a live audience. His parents had accompanied him, offering quiet encouragement, reminding him to breathe, to trust his preparation, and to let the music flow naturally. He nodded, but inside he could feel a storm of emotions, each one tugging at his focus, each one making him more aware of the significance of this moment. The hall was large and filled with people. Parents, teachers, and fellow students from other schools sat in the audience, chatting softly, their attention occasionally drawn to the stage. The boy took a moment to look around, feeling the presence of so many eyes upon him. He felt the pressure of expectation, both from those who believed in him and from the boy himself. His palms were sweaty, and he could hear the faint thump of his heart in his ears. Yet amidst the nerves, there was also a quiet excitement, the kind that comes when someone is about to do something meaningful, something that matters deeply to them. Backstage, other performers were tuning their instruments or taking deep breaths, preparing themselves in their own ways. Some looked confident, others anxious, but all were focused on the music they would soon play. The boy noticed a few older students glancing at him with curiosity, perhaps wondering what kind of musician this young boy would be. He did not have time to think about their thoughts, though, because the stage manager signaled that it was nearly his turn. He took a final deep breath, ran his fingers lightly over the keys, and reminded himself that he had prepared for this, that the music was his friend, and that the notes had a story to tell. When his name was called, he walked onto the stage carefully, his small frame appearing fragile against the grandeur of the hall. The audience fell silent, sensing the anticipation, waiting to hear what the boy would play. He approached the piano, his heart still racing, and sat down. The polished surface reflected the bright lights above, and he could see his own nervous expression staring back at him. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, letting the room fade away, letting the music in his mind prepare to take over. As his fingers touched the keys, the first notes of Mozart's piece emerged. The sound was soft at first, tentative, but soon gained confidence and clarity. Each note flowed naturally, each phrase carried intention, and the music began to fill the hall with its delicate beauty. The boy felt himself dissolving into the performance, as if the music had absorbed him completely. Every worry, every fear, every thought of perfection left him, replaced by focus, presence, and a connection to something greater than himself. The audience leaned forward, captivated, sensing that they were witnessing something rare. The boy's expression changed as he played. There was intensity, concentration, and joy. Sometimes his eyes would close, his body swaying slightly with the rhythm, as if the music were speaking through him. Other times he would glance up briefly, seeing the reactions of the audience. A parent wiping a tear, a teacher nodding in approval, a fellow student wide-eyed with admiration. It was as if the music had opened a window into his heart, and everyone could see the story he was telling. The notes were no longer just sounds. They were emotions, ideas, and experiences all woven together by his skill and passion. The performance was not without its challenges. There were difficult passages that required precision and speed, and the boy's hands sometimes felt unsure for a fraction of a second. But he had practiced so much that muscle memory and instinct guided him. Even when he felt the tiniest hesitation, he allowed the music to continue, trusting in himself and the journey of each piece. He understood that music was not about perfection alone. It was about expression, communication, and emotion. With every note, he poured himself into the performance, letting the audience feel the energy, the longing, and the joy that lived inside him. Halfway through, a more complex section arrived, one that required both speed and delicacy. His fingers moved quickly, striking the keys with precision while maintaining the emotion that the music demanded. The hall was silent, each listener holding their breath, caught in the flow of sound. The boy felt a surge of adrenaline, not from fear, but from the pure thrill of creating something alive, something that could touch the hearts of those around him. The energy in the room seemed to respond, the audience drawn into the story, moving with each change in tone, each rise and fall of melody. As the final passage approached, the boy felt a strange sense of calm. The music had carried him through every worry, every doubt, every anticipation. His hands moved confidently, his mind focused, and his heart full of the story he wanted to tell. The crescendo built, filling the hall with sound, and then tapered to a gentle, perfect ending. The last note lingered in the air, soft yet profound, echoing long after his fingers had left the keys. For a moment, there was complete silence, as if the audience was suspended in awe, unsure whether to breathe or move. Then came the applause, and it was thunderous. The boy looked up and saw people clapping, some standing, some with tears in their eyes. The sound was overwhelming, not just for the loudness, but for the sheer impact of what had happened. He felt a mix of relief, pride, and happiness, but also a quiet humility. He had shared something personal, something that mattered to him deeply, and the audience had felt it. Their reactions told him that his music had reached them, had touched them in ways that words could not describe. The boy smiled, realizing that the hours of practice, the moments of struggle, and the perseverance had all been worth it. Judges approached him afterward, complimenting his skill, his expression, and the way he had brought Mozart's music to life. Each word felt meaningful, not because he sought praise, but because it confirmed that his effort, dedication, and love for music could have an impact. Parents and other students came forward to congratulate him, shaking his hand or offering kind words. It was an emotional experience, one that he would remember for the rest of his life. For the boy, the performance had been more than a competition. It had been a moment of connection, a chance to share a piece of his soul with the world. After leaving the stage, he walked back to his parents, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. They hugged him tightly, expressing pride and admiration. The boy realized that the journey was just beginning, that this performance was a step in a longer path, but it was a significant one. He had faced the challenge, shared his passion, and experienced the powerful effect of music on others. It was a lesson he would carry forward, that true talent was not just about technical skill, but about heart, courage, and the willingness to connect with others. That night, as he lay in bed, he thought back to every moment of the day. The nerves, the focus, the joy of playing, and the reactions of the audience. He felt a sense of accomplishment, but also curiosity and excitement for the future. There were more pieces to learn, more stages to perform on, and more people to inspire. He understood that the path would not always be easy, but the power of music, the joy of expression, and the impact he could have on others made every struggle worthwhile. He fell asleep with a quiet smile, dreaming of melodies yet to come and knowing that he had discovered something truly special, something that could change lives, starting with his own. After the performance, the boy stepped away from the piano, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and a strange nervousness that he had never experienced before. The applause had been loud, but now, standing in front of the audience, there was a new silence, a space that seemed to ask him if he had anything to say. He looked at the faces before him, parents, teachers, judges, and other performers, and realized that this was his moment to speak, to share something beyond the music, something that came from his heart. He took a deep breath, unsure if his words would come out as clearly as he wanted. The audience waited patiently, sensing that something important was about to happen. Then, in a soft voice, he began to speak. He did not start with thanks or compliments, though he felt those things. Instead, he shared a story, a simple truth about his journey. He spoke of how music had been his friend, his escape, and his teacher. He talked about the hours of practice, the struggles with frustration and doubt, the nights when he had felt he could not go on but did anyway because he loved the piano. Every word came from a place of honesty, and though he was young, the sincerity in his voice touched everyone listening. The boy explained that he had discovered Mozart by accident, finding a record in a small shop and being captivated instantly by the melodies. He described how each piece had felt like a conversation, how the music seemed to speak to him, and how he had tried to understand it, not just with his fingers, but with his heart. As he spoke, the audience leaned in, some nodding, others whispering quietly to each other. They could sense that this was more than a performance. It was a window into a young boy's life, his challenges, and the way music had transformed him. He went on to say that the applause and recognition were wonderful, but what mattered most was the connection he felt when playing, the joy of making music, and the hope that his playing could make others feel something too. He spoke of the power of art, of dedication, and of courage. He admitted that he had been nervous, that sometimes he doubted himself, and that he had made mistakes, but those moments had not stopped him. They had been part of the journey, and he wanted everyone, especially young listeners, to know that it was okay to struggle, as long as they never gave up on what they loved. As the boy spoke, tears began to form in some eyes. People were moved not by the grandeur of his performance alone, but by the honesty and humility of the words he shared. It was rare to hear someone so young speak with such depth, and the story he told resonated with everyone in the room. Parents whispered to each other, sharing how inspiring it was. Teachers felt proud of the dedication he had shown, and fellow students looked at him with a mixture of awe and admiration. The boy's words carried the same emotion as his music, bridging the gap between performer and listener, creating a shared experience that would stay with the audience long after the event ended. He also expressed gratitude. He thanked his parents for their unwavering support, for believing in him even when resources were limited. He thanked his teacher, who had guided him patiently and helped him refine his skills without ever taking away his sense of wonder. He acknowledged the encouragement of friends and neighbors, who had listened, cheered, and believed in his potential. Yet, throughout this gratitude, he never sought praise for himself. It was a recognition of the collective effort and love that had helped him reach this moment. The audience was captivated, listening to every word. They could feel the boy's journey, the hard work, the dedication, and the heart behind the music. Some people were inspired to reflect on their own passions, wondering if they had pursued them with the same dedication. Others felt a renewed sense of hope, realizing that talent, when nurtured with love and perseverance, could create moments of profound beauty. The boy's message was simple, yet powerful. It was about courage, honesty, and the importance of pursuing what truly mattered to him. After a pause, he concluded his speech, saying that he hoped everyone who heard his music would feel a little more connected to the world, to each other, and to the beauty that art could create. His final words were met with a standing ovation, louder and longer than the applause for his performance. The boy smiled, feeling overwhelmed by the warmth and kindness surrounding him. He had shared his music, his story, and his heart, and the audience had responded with equal generosity. Judges approached him afterward, not just to praise his technical skill, but to comment on the maturity and sincerity of his speech. They noted how unusual it was for someone so young to communicate with such clarity and depth, both in music and in words. The boy felt a sense of validation, not in the sense of winning an award, but in knowing that the truth he had shared had made a real impact. His parents hugged him tightly, tears in their eyes, proud of not just his talent, but his character and courage. News of the boy's performance and his words spread quickly. Social media posts, articles, and local news segments highlighted not only his musical skill, but the heartfelt story he had shared with the audience. People were inspired by the young musician who had dared to speak honestly about his journey, and many commented on the simplicity and authenticity that made his story so relatable. Invitations for future performances arrived, as well as offers for mentorship and support from individuals who wanted to help nurture his talent further. The boy was careful, however, to remain focused on his music and his personal growth, understanding that recognition was secondary to the love he felt for playing. In the days following the event, the boy reflected on the experience. He realized that sharing his story had changed something inside him. He felt more confident, more aware of the impact of his efforts, and more motivated to continue on his path. He understood that music was not just about notes or applause, but about communication, empathy, and connecting with others. This awareness gave him a new sense of purpose, one that extended beyond personal achievement and into the realm of inspiring others, creating joy and offering hope. At home, the boy continued his practice but with a new perspective. He approached each piece with intention, imagining the emotions he wanted to convey and the stories he wanted to tell. The piano remained a friend and companion, but now it was also a bridge, a way to connect with people in a deeper and more meaningful way. He experimented with dynamics, phrasing, and tempo, exploring how subtle changes could express different emotions and thoughts. His teacher noticed this shift immediately, praising his maturity and insight. Together, they worked on refining not only his technical skills, but the emotional depth of his performances. The boy also began to share his experience with younger students at his school and in his community. He talked about the importance of practice, perseverance, and honesty, encouraging others to pursue their passions even when the path seemed difficult. His story inspired children who had been hesitant to try new things, and even adults found themselves reflecting on their own approach to challenges and creativity. Through music and words, the boy had begun to make a lasting impact, showing that talent combined with heart and courage could inspire far beyond a single performance. Even as invitations for competitions and concerts increased, the boy remained humble. He continued to practice diligently, focusing on growth rather than recognition. Each performance became an opportunity to communicate, to connect, and to tell a story through music. The lessons he had learned from his first big performance and the words he had shared afterward guided him through new challenges, reinforcing the importance of patience, dedication, and authenticity. In time, the boy realized that what he had said after the performance had changed more than just the audience's perception of him. It had changed how he saw himself. He understood that sharing struggles and expressing gratitude, fear, hope, and joy openly could strengthen him as a person and as a musician. He felt more grounded, more confident, and more ready for the opportunities and challenges that lay ahead. The impact of that moment, the words he had spoken from his heart, would remain with him always, guiding his journey and shaping his growth. The boy's story became an example of what can happen when talent meets honesty and courage. People remembered not just the beautiful music, but the sincerity of his message. They spoke of the young pianist who had dared to share his heart, inspiring others to find their own voice and pursue what they loved. It was a powerful reminder that achievements are not measured only by skill, awards, or recognition, but by the ability to touch others, to share truth, and to inspire hope. As the days turned into weeks, the boy continued his journey, carrying with him the memory of that unforgettable performance and the words that had resonated with so many. He played with renewed purpose, practiced with determination, and lived with an awareness that his music could create change. He understood that the journey was ongoing, that every performance, every note, and every word mattered. And with that understanding, he embraced the future, ready to continue sharing his gift, inspiring others, and growing into the musician and person he was meant to be. After the unforgettable performance and the words he had shared, the boy returned to his daily life with a sense of quiet purpose. The experience had changed him in ways he could not have predicted. He continued to practice, but now his approach was different. Every note, every phrase, every pause carried more meaning. He understood that his music could touch people's hearts, and he wanted each performance to be more than just a demonstration of skill. It was about connection, about sharing a part of himself with the world, and about inspiring others to follow their passions with courage and dedication. Opportunities began to multiply. Invitations to play at local events, schools, and community gatherings arrived, each one a chance to share his music and story. While some were nervous about performing in new environments, he approached each one with the same focus and determination that had brought him this far. The boy learned to adapt to different spaces, different pianos, and diverse audiences, realizing that the essence of music remained the same no matter the setting. The thrill of seeing people moved by his playing never faded. It only deepened his appreciation for the gift he had been given. His parents continued to support him, not only by providing guidance and encouragement, but also by helping him navigate the increasing demands on his time. They reminded him to balance practice with rest, study, and moments of play, emphasizing that growth required care, not just effort. The boy listened, understanding that discipline did not mean endless work, but thoughtful engagement with his passion. Each day became a blend of structured practice, exploration, and reflection, a rhythm that strengthened both his skills and his character. School life also changed. Peers who once overlooked or teased him now showed curiosity and admiration. Some asked questions about his practice, others expressed their amazement at his talent, and a few sought his advice on pursuing their own interests. The boy responded with humility and patience, eager to share what he had learned without arrogance. He found satisfaction in helping others discover their own strengths, understanding that encouragement and mentorship could be as meaningful as personal achievement. Competitions and recitals continued, each one a new challenge and an opportunity for growth. The boy experienced nervousness and doubt at times, but he had learned to channel these feelings into focus and energy. He approached every performance as a conversation, listening with his heart as much as with his ears, responding to the music and the audience in a way that was both personal and compelling. Judges and audiences alike noticed the depth of his expression and the maturity beyond his years. Each performance reinforced his understanding that music was a living art, one that required honesty, attention, and empathy. Alongside his musical journey, the boy also encountered challenges that tested his perseverance. There were moments of fatigue, technical difficulties, and personal struggles, but he met each one with determination. He realized that setbacks were not failures but lessons, opportunities to refine his approach and deepen his understanding. Whether it was a passage he could not master immediately or a performance that did not go as planned, he treated each experience as a step forward. This mindset became central to his growth, teaching him resilience and the value of persistence. The community began to recognize the boy not just for his talent but for the authenticity and humility he displayed. Invitations to speak at schools, participate in workshops, and mentor younger students emerged naturally. He embraced these opportunities, sharing his story of dedication, practice, and the importance of pursuing one's passion even in the face of doubt. His words resonated deeply with those who listened, inspiring many to embrace their own interests with renewed energy and confidence. The boy understood that influence came not from fame or accolades, but from the ability to connect and inspire through honesty and action. As time passed, the boy also explored the emotional depth of his music more fully. He experimented with interpretation, dynamics, and phrasing, learning how subtle changes could transform a familiar piece into a personal statement. He studied recordings of great musicians, not to imitate them, but to understand their approach and apply insights to his own playing. The piano became a tool of expression, a way to communicate experiences and feelings that words could not capture. He learned to listen to the music within himself as carefully as he listened to the music of others, creating performances that were vibrant, expressive, and heartfelt. His journey was not solitary. Family, teachers, and peers remained an essential part of his support network. His parents continued to guide and encourage him, celebrating successes and helping him navigate challenges. His teacher provided both technical instruction and emotional guidance, nurturing the boy's talent while fostering his confidence and artistic intuition. Friends and classmates offered encouragement and curiosity, reminding him that community and connection were integral to growth. The boy realized that while talent opened doors, relationships, mentorship, and support made the journey meaningful and sustainable. With each new performance, the boy's reputation grew, but he remained grounded. He understood that recognition was fleeting, while skill, dedication, and passion were lasting. He focused on continuous improvement, setting goals for himself that were challenging yet achievable. Each practice session, each performance, each interaction became a lesson, reinforcing the values of patience, humility, and resilience. The boy's understanding of music evolved from playing notes correctly to expressing emotions and creating experiences that touched the hearts of others. Beyond performances, the boy began to explore ways to use his talent to give back. He participated in charity events, community concerts, and local initiatives that aimed to bring music to people who might not have easy access to it. He realized that his gift could extend beyond personal achievement to making a difference in the lives of others. This sense of purpose enriched his practice and performance, infusing every note with intention and empathy. Music became not only a personal journey but a shared experience, one that could inspire, comfort, and bring joy to many. The boy also reflected on his growth personally. He had faced fear, doubt, and pressure, yet he had learned to channel these emotions constructively. He had discovered the importance of perseverance, practice, and emotional expression. He had learned that vulnerability, honesty, and gratitude were strengths, and that sharing them could have profound impact. These lessons extended beyond music, shaping his character, his relationships, and his approach to life. He understood that success was not measured solely by awards or recognition, but by growth, connection, and the ability to inspire and uplift others. As the years progressed, the boy's dedication and talent opened doors to new experiences. Advanced studies, mentorships with accomplished musicians, and performances in larger venues became part of his journey. Yet, he remained the same person at heart, humble, dedicated, and passionate about music. He remembered the first moments at the piano, the discovery of Mozart, and the first audience that had witnessed his talent. Those memories grounded him, reminding him of where he began and why he played. His story inspired others to pursue their own passions with courage and commitment. Young students saw in him an example of how talent combined with hard work could lead to meaningful achievement. Parents and teachers recognized the value of nurturing curiosity and supporting children in discovering their gifts. The boy's journey became a testament to the power of dedication, resilience, and authenticity, demonstrating that with love, practice, and courage, one could not only achieve excellence but also touch the lives of many. The boy's music continued to evolve, becoming richer, deeper, and more expressive with each passing year. He embraced every opportunity to perform, teach, and share his story. Each stage, each audience, each piece of music added layers to his experience, shaping him into a more skilled and empathetic musician. Yet, he never lost sight of the joy that had first drawn him to the piano. The simple, profound pleasure of creating sound, exploring emotion, and connecting with something larger than himself. In the end, the boy's journey was a story of growth, courage, and the enduring power of passion. He had transformed from a quiet child with a gift into a young musician who could inspire, connect, and uplift. His performances were not just about notes and technique. They were about heart, expression, and the shared human experience. Through music, he discovered his voice, his purpose, and his ability to make a difference, proving that dedication, honesty, and love for what one does could change not only his life but also the lives of those who listened. The boy had found his path, and with every note, every performance, and every word, he continued to inspire, leaving a lasting mark on the world through the magic of music.